Now, what do we get to do with Power BI? I showed you from my portfolio. We're able to see a project I did on Power BI, a complete project I did on Power BI. Now, here is, let's see if I had finished this. I was doing this for some of my other students. Let me see what we have done there. So, towards the end of what we are doing here on Power BI, we're also going to build a dashboard with Microsoft Excel as well, and then compare the difference. Okay, now, yeah. So we were able to build a simple dashboard like this using Power BI. And we are able to make it interactive. When we say an interactive dashboard, we're saying that if I select a particular item, it's going to filter the others and give me a result. So now we are seeing that this is for coffee sales, right? So I selected loyalty card for those that are loyal customers. There are 1,665 of them. So when I did not select anything, this is the total number of customers, total number of orders made, total sales, and the total profit made. Maybe this should be in dollar because this is looking very small. Now, if I select maybe for a particular roast type of coffee, I select the dark coffee type. Every other chart we have here was filtered to give results based on what we selected. So now we know that 316 customers bought dark coffee, 327 orders were made. Total sales of dark coffee was 13,000 with only 390 profits. As compared to medium, we have 133 profits, and so on and so forth. Okay, so we build dashboards and we give reports based on what we have done on our dashboard. Okay, so that's just a view. Now I'm going to be starting from the scratch. I'm going to be starting from the scratch, so I'm selecting a blank report. I'm selecting a blank report. Are we good, guys? So just give it a moment. Now, Power BI came with a default data set, like we could just use for practice, okay? And that's what we're going to use today, and then tomorrow, or based on how far we go, if we have enough time, we're going to try a data set of our own and then go on to see what we can build. We'll try to build that coffee dashboard as well, and everybody would have the result of their dashboard at the end of the class. So I want to use a sample data that is available on Power BI. So I click on that, and then I'm selecting load sample data. So today we are going to see how the Power BI interface is, what happens on the Power BI interface, what we do, and all that. So this is where we could see the different sheets in this data that we want, this random data that Power BI made available to us. So we have the financials, we have sheet 1, so there are 2 data there. Let's say we are working with the financials. Now, notice that I can't load, I can't transform yet because I've not selected the file. So if I select financials, I can now either be able to load or transform my data. So now, initially when I didn't have financials checked, you could see that load and transform data were not available, but once I have it checked, you see it can now be available. You have the liberty to even select multiple sheets. If I check multiple sheets, they're all fine. We're going to see that in the coffee data report we are going to do. Okay, so I'm going to select one. Now, if I click on load, it's going to take me straight to my Power BI desktop. It's going to take me to my report view on my Power BI. If I click on transform data, somebody's mic is not muted. Who's that? Just help us. Everybody confirm your mic and make sure it's muted. Okay, thank you. Bless you. Now, if I click on transform data is going to take me to Power Query. If I click on transform data is going to take me to Power Query. Do you remember Power Query? Now, why do we have the option to take our data to Power Query? And it's simply because that you may want to clean the data, or maybe there are some kinds of transformations that you want to do on your data, and you can't do them directly on Power BI as of itself. Okay, and that's why Power BI comes with Power Query. Now, this is one of the advantages we have using Microsoft Power BI rather than others like Tableau, ClickView, and all that. Now, having the Power Query editor, which can help you to transform your data before you go ahead to build your reports, is an added advantage. Okay, so remember our Power BI. Remember our Power BI. Remember our Power BI. So we remember our home tab, transform, add column, and so on and so forth. So whatever transformation we want to do, we can go ahead and do that here before we go back to Power BI. So let's assume that I don't have any issue with my data. Let's assume I don't have any issue with my data, and I'm going to load it back to Power BI. So I'm going to go to here and click on close and apply. Now, the moment I select close and apply, it takes me all the way back to Power BI, and then it loads it to a model. Okay, it loads it to a model, and from here we can go ahead and build a vision. Now, Power BI has 4 sections: the report view, the table view, the model view, and the DAX query view. Now, the report view is where we build our vision. The report view is where we're going to build our vision, as we're going to see subsequently. The table view gives you an insight into your different tables on your worksheet. So now, these are tables. Just in case you want to see a particular thing, you can easily see them here. Another thing we can do here is we could also manage the data type. For example, if I want to change a particular data type, I could do it here in the table view. Okay, I could do it here in the table view. Let's say I didn't want this to be a decimal number. I wanted to change it to something else. I could easily do that. And maybe if I want to put it in a new category of data, maybe latitude, longitude, maybe a country, and all that. We're going to see that in the example we're going to do. Let me see country here. So if I have country here, and I go here, data category, you could see I could select country to be an address, a place, a city, a county, state or province, postal code, even a country. So if I do this, it will know that these guys are actually country, and then it has a certain advantage if we want to work with maps, right? If we're going to build a visual using maps, then you're going to see the advantage that this poses. All right, now when we go to our model view, now we have just one table here, so we may not so much need the model view. What happens in the model view is if we have multiple tables that have a common relationship, we could easily link them together. and then go ahead to establish relationships which will make our reports much more easier. Okay, it's basically what we do here is something of data consolidation of that sort. We are saying that I have multiple tables, and now I want to bring information from the multiple tables together to build my reports. And finally, we have our DAX query view, which is where you write DAX queries to query your data, but it's more of an advanced class, so it's not something we're going to be doing. Now let's return to the report view. If we go to, the home tab, just in case you want to get data, you can click on it. You see the different sources of data we could get. These are all of them: workbooks, CSV files, XMLs, JSONs, even PDF. So just like what happens with Power Query, okay, that's the same thing that happens here. All right, you can still select for Excel workbook, One Lake Data Hub, and so on and so on. So all these are where different sources of data, and this is if you want to manage and connect to different sources. Now this will return to Power Query. This will refresh. This will add a visual to your report, which you can do from here. This will add a text box, and this will add Power BI visuals from other sources, right? Other visuals that are not here. The insert tab, you could insert certain other features like shapes, narrative. So narrative is an auto-generated written summary of your data. Power BI will attempt to summarize your data or what is finding in your data and give you the narration. Okay, so we just have those several tabs, but for the beginning class, we're not going to focus on so much. Let's understand what's happening on the interface. Now, remember, this is your build visual, this is your model view. Sorry, this is your report view rather. You have page 1, so you could have multiple pages. You could have multiple pages to build visual. Now, it is not compulsory that you're going to build all your visual on one page. It's not compulsory that you want to build all your visuals on one page. Remember when I told us about KPIs and metrics of measurement? Now, your dashboards are used to reveal insights that are generated from KPIs and whatever metric that you are considering, which of course is your KPI. So when you're building here, you may want to focus on your KPIs. So maybe on page 1, you want to focus on just profit margin or profit rate. So all the dashboards here will be related, all the charts that you build on this dashboard will be related to profit margins and all that. And then maybe on page 2, you now want to focus on maybe customer retention, right? You want to draw out insights or reveal insights from the data on customer retention on this dashboard. Now, you don't need to bother. There's a way you could link multiple pages together. So even if you want to apply whatever filter you did here to the other pages, it's still going to work. Now, let's get closer and closer to building our visual. You have your filters section, and you could actually put off some of these things. So if I uncheck filters here, it goes off, okay? But usually it's there for you to filter the data. So if you want to add a filter on this particular page, you could do it. If you want to add a filter that's going to affect all the pages, you can also do that. And trust me, you're going to see how that works. Now, the visualization section offers you your different charts and designs for the charts. Okay, so you have your build visual section, and you have your format your report page, which is this entire report page. Here you have your different charts, which you're going to use. And for this section below the charts, that's where you're going to see the different values that you're going to be using in the charts, okay, based on whatever you're doing. You're going to see all that. Now, the data section holds the columns or the variables of your data. Now take note that I mentioned initially that you could have more than one table. You could have more than one table. So this data section is going to reveal all the tables you have there and the variables. Now let's begin. So I want to pick a simple line stacked bar chart. So if I select a simple stacked bar chart, you could see how it's already selected. Now notice that the moment I selected stacked bar chart, I just selected the stacked bar chart, and you could see that it's over here. And now I was trying to say, so if I want to remove this chart, I can come to these three dots down below and then select remove. Okay. Now, once again, notice what's happening here. Notice what you have here. You just have values without anything. If I select a chart, I now have y-axis, x-axis, legend, small multiples, and so on and so forth. Alright, now let me pick another chart. Still watch here. Let me pick a pie chart. For a pie chart, I no longer have y-axis, x-axis, where I have legend, values, details. I don't have small multiples. Let me pick a tree map. I have category, details, values. Now, what I needed us to learn is that various charts are going to have various variables or various inputs. Okay, various charts are going to have various inputs. So if I select the stack bar chart, is going to need the y-axis or x-axis, legend, and so on and so forth. Okay, now remember guys, x-axis, y-axis, x-axis horizontal, y-axis vertical. So it's a bar chart, so we're expecting that on our y-axis we should have a categorical variable. This is another thing. Different charts are going to need different kinds of elements or different types of data. Okay, we're expecting that for a stacked chart, it's all right, Mr. Emedi, we understand. We're expecting that for a stacked chart, for a stacked bar chart, that the y-axis is going to be a categorical variable, while the x-axis is going to be a numerical variable. Categorical variable in terms of different groups. So if I select, now notice here in my data section, every value that is a numeric value, a quantitative value, has a summation sign. So that will easily let you know that this is a numerical value, while categorical values do not have any of such icon. Dates are usually shown with a calendar icon such as this. Okay, so if I select, let's say month name, if I select month name, it automatically goes to my y-axis because we're expecting that y-axis should be a categorical variable for a bar chart. If I uncheck that and let me say I'm selecting a quantitative variable first, and let's say I'm selecting sales. Notice that sales immediately went to the x-axis. Am I making sense here? So if I take maybe product to x-axis, it's going to give me count of products because what's happening in the x-axis is a summarization. What's happening in the x-axis is a summarization, right? That's why we can only move numerical variables there. Remember when I gave the example last week or so about different denominations and you need to perform an aggregation of summing the different denominations, okay, giving a total sum of the different denominations. Now, in this case, your y-axis is to contain the categorical variables and your x-axis is to contain your numerical variables, which you can go ahead and choose whatever aggregation or summarization you want to perform. So I'm going to bring product to my y-axis, and then let's say I picked profit in my x-axis. So now I have a chart that reveals to me my different products in my y-axis and the total profit made in my x-axis. You can see that easily revealed here. Now, if I click on the drop down arrow, I can easily change the summary. I could use average, minimum, maximum, count distinct, and I could even show value as percent of grand total. Remember when we did this from pivot table? All right. So let's say I want to show average profit. So I now know what is the average profit of the different products. I now know what is the average profit of the different products. But that's not all. That's not all we can do. We still have legend and small multiples. If I drag, let's say I drag country to legend, please take a look at, okay, so let me do this. Let me make the chart pretty big so we can easily see what's going to happen. So if I bring country to legend, see what happens now, yeah? It easily makes a legend for each product. For each product, we can now be able to know what was the average profit made in each country. So Canada, France, Germany, Mexico, and the United States of America. So we now know what's the average profit. So simply by moving my cursor over each, I could know what the average profit of each of them, each of the different countries. When we had legend, we had something like this, which creates a legend, and then for each of the different products, we now have the different countries. Okay. While I said for small multiples, what small multiples will do is it will create for Canada separately. So for each of the countries, we will have their various subsections on their own. Okay, so basically that's what you can do. Now you must make sure that what you're doing is to reveal insight. Okay, if it's not necessary, it's not going to reveal any insight. If it's not pleasing to the eye, then you don't need to do it. Okay, so if my research or if my report has nothing to do with revealing information of the countries in each product or something of that sort, then it's not necessary. Okay. Now, another thing we must also learn is I'm selected on a chart here. If I simply click on another one, it's going to convert every element I had added in this previous chart to that new kind of chart. So this is now for a start column chart. But it's not always going to work like that. The reason why it's working between a stacked column chart and a stacked bar chart is because they both have the same kinds of elements. They both need the same kind of elements for their visions. Because they both need the same kinds of elements for their visions. They both need a categorical and a numerical element. Okay? They both need a categorical and a numerical element. If for something like a scatter plot, a scatter chart, I select that, it's not going to work out very fine because a scatter plot is going to need two quantitative variables. A scatter plot is going to need two quantitative variables, so that's not going to turn out very well. Okay, so I'm just going to undo. Of course, we know that Control Z, Control Z, and we have back here. Okay, so let's say this is my first chart. Now let's see how we can also generate other charts. Let's see how we can generate other charts. Now, if I want to build a new visual, I have to make sure that I'm not selected on this previous visual anymore. I have to make sure that I'm not selected on this visual anymore. Like I said, if I'm still selected on this and I click on another, it's going to transform to the other. So if I want to create a new visual, I'm going to click anywhere outside so that this guy is no longer selected, and then I could go ahead and pick whatever chart I want to pick. So let's say I'm picking a line chart this time around. Let's say I'm picking a line chart this time around. And now line charts are best used to visualize trends. Line charts are best used to visualize trends. This is another thing. Because there are certain conditions for certain kind of chart. Like I said, for the bar or column chart needs one categorical and needs one quantitative. For a line chart, works best to reveal how something works over time or how something changes over a period. Now, so if I'm selecting dates, now it's taking dates to be in the x-axis, and then notice how we have dates, we have year, we have quarter, we have month, and we have day. Because all these are parts of the date value that we had. All these are parts of the date values that we had. And then let's say maybe I want to monitor profits. So now it's showing me the profits across 2013 to 2014. So let me spread this out. From 2013 to 2014, probably our data just consists of both years alone. Now, but this is not very revealing, is it? It looks like it just can't be like that. So if I remove the year part of data, it's now showing me how much it produced in each quarter. So this is not a sequential it's not a sequential plot. What I mean is that this is not like 2013 quarter 1, 2013 quarter 2, and so on and so forth. It's summarizing all the quarter 1s together, quarter 2s, quarter 3, quarter 4. Just in case what I want to review from my insight is how profits perform in the different quarters of the year. Okay, if I want to see in month, I can now know how profit performs in the different months of the year. So we are now saying that, oh, it looks like, wow, October seems to be a very good month for profit. Now, this is the reason why sometimes I'm going to tell us that you have to be careful when using some of this summarization, because what if the reason why October is greater is because maybe we had 2014 October and we didn't have for the other years. So maybe you may want to investigate that further. Basically, let's see what average will give us. Let's see what average will give us for this same chart. So you could see that on an average, October doesn't really give you that much. So you now need to go and find out why was it looking like there was such a peak for total average in October. Maybe when you go to find out, you may now see, okay, maybe there's one particular day or one particular period where they made extraordinary sales, which would be an outlier. Which would be an outlier because it's significantly different from the others. Now, if I remove for month, it's going to be a day, which we don't want. So, what if I want it in a hierarchy? Now, so you see, when I wanted it in a hierarchy, I had to select the drop-down arrow and select date hierarchy. So now we have from September 2013 to November 2013, all the way to March, and you get it now? You get it? So you see how things proceed now because I've selected hierarchy. Now, if based on hierarchy, maybe I want to remove day. If I remove year, it's going to look like that, which you may not want. So Now, good. Now I removed here and I brought it back, and then look at what it's showing us. Because now it's not in the same order that it was before. So the best thing to do would be to remove everything and then bring it back. So now I have the trend of profit across 2013, across the months of 2013 till 2014. If I want to see maybe for the different products, maybe I want to see for the different product. If I select product, it goes to legend, and then it now shows me for the different products. I could easily now find out, oh, which products did better, and so on and so forth. Let's see segment. So for the different segments, I could see the total profit generated. So I now know that when we are having very high profit, they are actually coming from the government sector. We could also see from this data that enterprises seems to be giving us negative values, right? We seem to be having negatives. We seem to be having losses from enterprises, while government seems to be giving us outrageously large values at certain peak points. Okay, so basically you're also using visuals to analyze your results. You're also using visuals to analyze your results. Now, this is one chart. I'm just going to introduce us to the various common kinds of charts that we have, and then subsequently we're going to move on to the whole project. Now, we've seen classic bar and column charts. Basically, let's see what happens with the clustered column, not one of my favorites. So if I have, so this now can contain multiple categorical variables. It can contain multiple categorical variables and a qualitative variable. So if I have products and I have country, and then I have profit as well. So let's see. So I now have for the different products, we can now be able to tell which country gave us the most profit in each product. Okay, which country gave us the most profit and the least profit in each product. So we can see that in Pasio, Canada gave us the most profit, while in VTT, France gave us the most. France also in Amarilla, Velo, we had Germany with the most profit, Montana, Germany with the most profit, and Canada with the most profit for Carretera as well. Okay, so that's that. Another common kind of chart we use is the pie chart. Very common, easy to use. So you see how it's just simple click, and then maybe I want to see so what pie chart also uses categorical and numerical. Okay, what pie chart reveals to you, or why do you use pie chart? You use it when you want to reveal the percentage of a total. You want to reveal the percentage of total. That's when you use pie chart. You want to reveal percentage of total. That's when we use pie chart, right? How much of the total does each portion have? How much of the total does each portion have? So for example, if I want to see the profit made in each country, I can now easily find out that, oh, Germany generated 21.79% of the profit, France 22.38%, Canada, United States, and Mexico gave the lowest percent of the profit. Okay, so it's just as simple as that. But take note that you must know why you're using whatever chart that you're using. Okay, do not attempt to use for maybe like a trend chart like this where you want to review how this something moved with time. You go to use a pie chart. Okay, you go to use a pie chart, that's going to be off. That's going to be a failure on your part. If you want to reveal how much of the total does pie chart hold, then I'm going to go, does each value hold, then I'm going to go ahead and use a pie chart. Okay. Now, for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to go to the next page and do other less common charts that we'll probably encounter. I want to introduce us to the maps. I want to introduce us to the maps. But before you can use map on your Power BI, you have to first of all activate map. You have to first of all activate map if you want to be able to use map on your Power BI. So you're going to go to File, and you're coming down to Options and Settings. You're going to File, go down to Options and Settings, and then you go to Options. And you want to go down to Security, and then you want to select Map and Field Map Visual. So you want to make sure that this is checked. You want to make sure that this is checked. Okay, you want to make sure that this is checked. Use Map and Field Map Visuals should be checked. Then you can go ahead and select OK and come back to your Power BI. Okay, otherwise maps may not be able to work. And secondly, when you want to use map, you must make sure that you're connected to a stable internet source. You must make sure that you're connected to a stable internet source because it's going to need that, right? So let me select this. Now, before I go on, I hope you're following, guys. If you're following, drop a reaction for me, please. If you're following, drop a reaction for me. Okay, thank you, Mr. Celestine. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Okay, now I've selected my map, but I'm going to go to my table view, and for my country section, I want to change the data type to a category. I want to make it a category. So Power BI is going to recognize it as a location, as a geography, as a country. Now you could do this if you have latitude and longitudes as well. So if I go to these three dots here, data categories, uncategorized, I'm going to select country. If I select country, notice that we now have like a ball round about that. So it's now seeing this as a country. Okay, it's now seeing it as a geography rather. So I can go back to my report view, and you could see country is now recognized as this. Now if I select country, and then select profit as well, so you could see that for the different countries, Germany, France, Mexico, North America, that's USA and Canada. Okay, so we could see that for each and every one of them, we now have some sort of that, right? If maybe you don't want it to be some, maybe you want to see average, you could also change that to average. Now, if you want to see legend, let me say I'm going to select product. So what basically is trying to do here is to show us in each country what percentage had or what amount was each of the profits. Okay. Now this is not a very good example because our regions are scattered across. Okay. Our regions are scattered across. So I'm just going to check product and then the profit generated were similar. Okay. Okay. Maybe let me try for segment as a, okay, good. So for segment, you can see for each of the different countries, you want to know which segment is giving the best. So for example, in United States now, small businesses are giving us the highest average profits, while in Mexico, government and small businesses. So government is giving us the highest average profit. In Canada, we have small businesses giving us the highest average profit. In France, we have government. In Germany, we also have government giving us the highest average profit. Okay. If I could also use the field map, but the field map is going to do this, like it's going to try to fill the region rather than using a bubble, which is what we saw in this normal map. Okay, so you can see North America, the whole of North America is highlighted because Canada, blah blah, both Canada, United States and Mexico are all there together. So if maybe we had which one will stand out, let me see. Maximum profit. I guess all their values are within the same range, so that's why it's not easily separating one from the other. Let's say median. I guess they are similar. Okay, so let me just leave it back at somewhere. And if I select segment as well, so usually if you want to use the field map, I would strongly recommend use it for a single location. For example, if you want to focus on the United States of America, you can go ahead and use the field map for that. Let me go back to my table view to confirm something. Did we have cities? No, we didn't. We did not have cities. Okay. So I'm going to take us back to our normal map. Okay, so that's going to easily be shaped. Now, other charts that we could use, or that also common charts that I use are the tree map. So the tree map uses rectangles to show which value is bigger than the other, or which variable has a larger portion than the other. So if I select segment, and then I select sale price, sales. So it's now telling me that, oh, see, government gave us the highest total sales, followed by small businesses, followed by enterprises. Then we have mid-market and channel partners. Okay, so that's what it shows. It uses rectangles to hierarchically show you which one is bigger than the other, or which one has a larger portion than the other. Okay, that's what the tree map does. We also have the funnel map, or the funnel chart, which gives you a disposition of how each value ranks compared to the highest value. Okay, what I mean is if I select product, or let's say count month, if I select month name, and select let's say sales, so I now know that October is when we have the highest sales. We have the highest sales in the month of October. followed sequentially by December, which has 80% of which is 80% compared to what October has. Okay, so December holds 80% compared to October. November holds 58% compared to October and 72% compared to December. Now, it just shows us a hierarchy. So at the end, we know that March contains 25.8% compared to October, which is the highest month. So the funnel map uses a form of hierarchy to show us which values are greater than the other and how they compare to an order. Okay, so those are common charts that we have. Other common charts. We also have the gauge, chart, which also tries to reveal the the way a gauge is, like it shows you this out of the total, something of that sort. It's not also my favorite. Truth be told, personally, I've not used it before. Actually. Okay. So value and then minimum value, maximum value. So let's say, let me bring this to minimum and maximum value, and then have profit as value. So now it tells me that, this is the profit that I've actually made from the total sales of this amount. So while the total sales made is 118 million, what we've actually generated as profit is just 16.89 million. Okay, what we generated as profit is just 16.89 million compared to this. All right, so like I said, various kinds of map charts, and you're just trying to review insights using each of them. Also, there are other kinds of charts. I'm creating a third page. Guys, please, are we making sense today? Have we learned something? Are we learning something? If you've learned something, or Power BI is making sense